Good evening. Welcome to another episode of TV Toastmasters. My name is Emilie Taylor, and I'm a member of TV Toastmasters. We are on location in Tigard, Oregon. My guest is a very passionate person when it comes to Toastmasters. Please help me welcome Tamsen Corbin. Hello, Tamsen.
Hi, Emilie. It's good to see you again.
Tamsen, how long have you been in Toastmasters?
I joined Toastmasters back in August of 2017, and I did it in kind of a weird way. I had just moved to Oregon. I didn't really know anybody here, and for the first time in 20 years, I was without a job. So really not much self-confidence, and was looking for a way to get out and network, improve my communication, and probably my listening skills. And I Googled Toastmasters. And I made the decision that I wanted to join a Toastmasters, but I wasn't sure what location. So my first week of trying to do it, I actually visited 5 different Toastmaster clubs in 1 week.
5 clubs in 1 week?
5 clubs in 1 week. And I went in each time saying that I'd never been to a club before, because I wanted the exact same experience every time. I wanted to be the guest.
Passionate. Oh my God, just to choose a club.
Just to choose a club. Well, each club is different. And that's the thing.
In what sense?
There's different personalities. We have a lot of different things within Toastmasters. You've got some that are company-based. Mm-hmm. Intel is out here. Nike is out here. Mm-hmm. They have their own clubs. You've got clubs that are more focused on professionals. Mm-hmm. You've got some focused more on 20-somethings, 30-somethings. Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure what the right fit was for me, and kind of like the three bears. One was not comfortable, one was comfortable, or too hot, too cold, the porridges. Mm. One of the clubs was too small.
Okay.
To begin with, I was scared that I'd have to speak every week, and that was not something I was comfortable with.
Sometimes that's not a bad thing.
For me, it was a bad thing having no confidence going into it. The next club was too big. I felt that I was going to be lost in the club. So I actually made the decision after the first week to join 2 clubs at the same time.
Which clubs are we talking about? What clubs did you join?
I joined We Toasted in Lake Oswego, Oregon. And the second one I joined, and they meet on Thursdays at 12 noon.
Okay. This is We Toasted, right?
We Toasted. Okay. And then I joined New Horizons, meets at 8 o'clock on Saturdays.
Oh, Saturdays at 8 o'clock. That's
Have to get up early. Have to get up early.
There's the passion again that's coming out, right, at 8 o'clock. You've been a member for more than a year.
Correct.
Tell me, what are the things that you learn about yourself in Toastmasters? How has it improved your life in areas that you would like to talk about?
I think the biggest surprise that I found through Toastmasters is I came in to practice speaking, specifically the impromptu side of it. Because I was going to be going out in interviews. And I was very afraid that if I didn't know a question, I was going to have that deer in the headlight look. Mm-hmm. So what really made me want to join Toastmasters was the impromptu side. What I did find out, though...
Impromptu, you mean? You explained it a little bit for our audience?
Correct. Impromptu. Impromptu is a section of the meeting where we have a table topics master. Mm-hmm. You get up, he asks a question, or she asks the question, and you've got 1 to 2 minutes to reply on that question. One of the keys I have found out about that is something called a pivot.
Oh.
You don't know how to answer that question, or they take you off guard, and instead of looking and going, using all those filler words, you change the subject and you talk about whatever you want to talk about. So it really helps me with, if I got stuck, not being able to answer a question. Now I just, off the cuff, just say whatever is on my mind.
So if you're in an elevator right now, you could sing or talk or do something? Is it?
I have been known to sing and dance in some of the Toastmaster meetings, so I think I'd be quite comfortable now speaking in the elevator or singing in an elevator, yes.
But when you started, you said you didn't have any confidence.
Absolutely not.
And from that point of time to now? Because part of what we're talking about here is how we could ask the people who are watching if they're afraid of speaking, afraid of taking on roles. That's really what we're trying to share to them, is how it has changed your life in many ways.
What I did learn from Toastmasters, it's not just the communication. It's not just getting up and practicing speeches. What I didn't understand for the first month or two was also the listening skills that you learn and the leadership. Within 2 months of becoming a member of New Horizons, I was actually given the role of Sergeant at Arms, which means I was in charge of the paperwork, the meeting supplies. I had to learn organizational skills that I hadn't used in quite a while. I had to learn to work with a group of 6 other team members. So I was able to enhance those skills that I just thought Toastmasters was speaking. You have to get up, you have to talk, whether it's an organized speech or the impromptu speaking. I didn't realize how much you actually learn through listening and keeping my mouth closed, which those people that know me know that it's very difficult for me to keep my mouth closed.
That's wonderful. So the listening skills was one of the most important things you learn about Toastmasters.
Absolutely.
What about taking on the Sergeant at Arms? That's one of the 7 roles.
Correct.
You are now a VP of Education. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I was elected to the VP of Education in my Saturday morning meeting. That one is in charge of taking on the responsibilities of the education of the different members, helping to motivate them.
A Vice President Education. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I was elected as a Vice President for my Saturday club, New Horizons. It is assisting those other members within my organization to help them promote their educational goals, whether it be speaking or whether it be leadership skills. So I help them by arranging the different roles that they're going to take, and some of them are leadership. You've got the role of an evaluator. You've got the role of timekeeper, grammarian. So I help nudge them in the right directions so they take on more responsibilities. And then I also work with them with regard to Pathways, which is the educational program that we're now in, helping them either get started in Pathways, answer the questions they have, or just help them understand which path might be the best one for them to undertake.
What's the most challenging thing about being the BPE of a club?
Most challenging thing sometimes, especially on a Saturday morning club, is getting the people to actually show up. Unfortunately, weekends get busy and things change, and so they sign up for roles and then they're just not able to show up. But within Toastmasters, we're pretty much willing to take on anything. You walk in the door and we can ask a member, "Hey, we're one evaluator short. Would you like to take that role?" "Sure, sounds great. What do I need to do?" So it's really great with that.
So you go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Every time you go to a meeting, you go with the flow. And that's how you learn in Toastmasters. That's how I learned in Toastmasters. So here's a question for you. If you meet somebody, let's say someone in the grocery store, you just got to talking. How would you talk about Toastmasters, and how would you invite them if they say, "Tamsen, I'm actually afraid of speaking"? How would you go about inviting them?
I talk about Toastmasters quite a few because my life is filled with it. As you indicated, I am part of 2 clubs. I'm actually part of 3 clubs now. Plus, I mentor a Gavel Club.
What is a Gavel Club?
A Gavel Club is, for this specific one, it is Future Stars. They're kids from 13 to 17 years old that actually follow the paths of Toastmasters. They give speeches, they do feedback. So a lot of the times I'm actually talking to kids more than I'm talking to adults and prompting them to join the Future Stars, and then hopefully once they turn 18, become Toastmasters. For me, the education of being able to communicate at 13, 14, 15 years old, these kids are incredible, and the ease that they have, if you can start when you're younger and just practice communicating, it just becomes second nature. Unfortunately, for a lot of adults, we get scared. We get put into little boxes we create for ourselves. And so I tell people, you know what? You get up the first time and maybe you just give 1 or 2 minutes through the table topics. You just start there. And then maybe that next month, you do your icebreaker, which is a 4 to 6 minute speech. And it's just about talking to yourself. After that, you feel comfortable with it. You get to be, it's part of a family, these clubs.
It's a safe place. We always talk about Toastmasters, it's a safe place.
Absolutely.
For both kids who are not 18 years old yet and adults.
Correct.
Wonderful. I'm glad you spoke a little bit about the Gavel Club because I know about it, but our audience may not know about it. Tamsen, I said in the very beginning of this show that you are very passionate. Tell me or tell us, why are you so passionate about Toastmasters? What is in Toastmasters that has made you so passionate about it?
The people.
Okay.
I have had 2 to 3 specific people that came up to me and said the words, "I see a lot of myself in you." They have pushed me. There is a phrase that now I use and I have definitely adopted. It's called voluntold.
Okay.
It's no longer volunteering, but without them saying those few words to me and saying, "You can do this. I know you can do this." The stuff that I've accomplished so far, I would have not accomplished because of those individuals on the adult side. And then I have to give it to the kids. I had not given a speech in the first 6 months, or the first 4 months of me joining Toastmasters. I went to my very first gavel club with these kids. They were 13 and 15-year-olds giving speeches without notes. I said right then and there, and I made them a promise. I said, "You can do it. I can do it." I started speaking that very next week, and I finished 2 levels with 2 different paths, meaning I did 8 speeches in a little over 6 weeks.
Wonderful. Briefly, tell us what you're learning.
I'm learning teamwork. I'm learning leadership. I'm learning organization. I'm learning networking skills. I'm improving my communication. And again, I'm learning to listen, to hear what I need to hear in order to help out others.
Thank you, Tamsen. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us for another episode of TV Toastmasters. If you want to learn more about Toastmasters, go to toastmasters.org.
Speak in public? I'd rather be burned at the stake. At least that's how I used to feel, until Toastmasters. I went online and found a club that met every week at lunchtime, and they were close to my office, so it worked out great. I was really scared when I started, but no one pressured me to speak or pushed me to do anything I wasn't ready for. I felt safe, and I realized it was okay to be nervous and to make mistakes, because these people were going to support and encourage me no matter what. And now, well, let's just say things have changed. I speak in front of large groups, lead all-day seminars, and conduct presentations to top executives. Toastmasters changed my life.
There are over 100 Toastmasters clubs meeting all around the Portland, Vancouver area, near your office, home, or even your school. We meet on all days of the week, morning, noon, and night. Our clubs couldn't be more convenient or affordable at under $10 a month. Visit a couple locations and find the one that's just right for you. All the information you need is at toastmasters.org.
Welcome back to TV Toastmasters. I'm Erik Bergman from We Toasted Toastmasters in Lake Oswego. And tonight I have a very special guest. Sometimes you see her in the host chair on this show, but today she's here as our guest. Cathey Armillas is a dynamic Toastmaster. She owns a marketing company. She's a published author. She teaches people how to give TED Talks, and she keeps her mind active and her body active by presenting herself with challenges, and that's our topic for tonight. So welcome, Cathey Armillas.
Wow, Erik, that was an amazing, thank you. Thank you for the great introduction.
Well, it's interesting how sometimes you're in this host seat interviewing someone else, and I'm looking forward to having a really informative talk because you're such an interesting person in the way that you present yourself with challenges that you've carefully chosen to try something really difficult and do it for a sustained period of time. And one of them is bridge walking. Now, this isn't just strolling across a bridge like a tourist. So tell us, what is bridge walking and what has it meant for you?
Yeah, thanks, Erik. It's interesting. I woke up, I've always loved bridges. I woke up one day, like 4.5 years ago, and I'm like, you know what? I want one of my life goals. I call life goals. Other people call it bucket list. I don't like that term. It's terrible. It sounds so negative. One of my life goals, I want to walk 10 of the most amazing bridges with 10 people that I love. And so I came up with this goal to walk bridges, and I came up with a few rules. The first rule was it had to be just me and my loved one. I know that there's a dynamic when you set on a journey to walk over a bridge, and there's so many metaphorical, analogies as to why you should walk a bridge. I mean, you're bridging a connection in a relationship, You wouldn't be able to get from one place to the other without that bridge, so it's a huge connecting piece. Sometimes there's things in your relationship you want to like take over the bridge and leave it on one side and come back.
Yes.
So there's a lot of, but I set out to walk 10 bridges with 10 people that I loved. And I started, another rule was that it had to be a bridge that neither one of us had walked over. Because I really wanted it to be this like great experience, no matter where.
A new experience.
Yeah, like a new experience. I didn't want it to be like, I've walked over this bridge 100 times, who cares, And you're not experiencing, the architecture, the experience, the environment, the backdrop. You're not able to do that if you've done it a million times. You're not able to do it exactly in the same way that you do when you first walk. So I set out to do that. I walked the first one with my dad, who is, he is a vet from the Vietnam War. He served in Korea on the DMZ line. And my dad has, at the time when he walked, I mean, he still has it, but at the time he had a walker. And we chose to walk over the Golden Gate Bridge. It was the only one. I'm only going to walk one per country. I don't want to have them all be in one space. So I gave my dad the United States. And we set out to walk over the Golden Gate Bridge, which in my mind, as a healthy, able-bodied person, I was like, oh, it's a long bridge. I had no idea how long it was. 3.2 miles round trip.
Wow.
Yeah. So as you can imagine, it was a rough trip. It took us a couple hours.
But your dad did that, and along the way, you got into the most incredible conversation with him that, as you said, changed the family dynamic in a really significant and good way. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was incredible. So, like many things, when I started doing that, it wasn't my intention to change dynamics of families, or there was just something cool and metaphorical about it. My dad and I had to pick up my dad in LA. That's where I grew up. So I flew down to LA. I picked him up. I rented a car, picked him up. We drove the 6-hour trek up to San Francisco, and in the midst of even driving up there, we started having conversations that we never had before. They started to get really deep. So by the time we had done the whole, done the bridge walk, the adventure to get there, my dad says at the end, you know what? I want to do a family call with you and my sister and my brother. He hadn't talked to my sister for a couple of years. They had a little falling out. And we ended up doing it. And he apologized to us. He says, I'm sorry, as a dad, sometimes I've been distant. And for 2.5 years, we had a Zoom call every Sunday. And now we do it once a month because it got to be a lot. But it really changed the dynamic of our family. So it's weird. My bridge walking experience started off with a bang.
And what other bridges have you been across so far?
Yeah, on the original 10?
Out of your original 10 worldwide.
Yeah, so I've been on the Bompo Bridge in Seoul, Korea. I've been on the Golden Gate Bridge with my dad. And then I just did, for my third bridge, I went with my sister and we walked over the Sydney Harbor Bridge. And I mean, we walked over it. We did the whole thing where you get hooked up to the bridge. And
you climb up over the top of that huge bridge in Australia. Excellent.
And my sister's afraid of heights.
Oh my goodness, so that was a challenge for her as well.
Yeah, so another metaphorical thing I think is like that was one of the bridges metaphorically that she had to cross, is her fear of heights.
Now you've made a practice out of setting up challenges for yourself, each with its own set of rules. Sometimes they have a time limit too. For instance, you had a reading challenge. Can you talk about reading challenge and what you gained from that?
Yeah, Erik, I'm this kind of person. I only do things I'm really disciplined, but only if I if I tell myself you're doing a challenge, and then I really stick to it. So I always do these 30-day challenges.
30 days.
30 days. They're always 30 days. And I was listening to an NPR interview, and there was somebody being interviewed, and they were talking about some recent studies on comprehension levels and how our entire level is going down quite a bit. And so they said if you just read a book 10 minutes a day, like read an actual book, not a screen, your comprehension levels will go up. So I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm doing a 30-day reading challenge. And that's what I did. For 30 days, I read 10 minutes, at least 10 minutes of a different book every day.
What are some of the other challenges that you've presented to yourself, and what were the benefits that you gained from them?
Yeah, so I always have a reason. A year and a half ago, I decided that I really wanted to change my biorhythms. I've been having problems sleeping, and so I said, you know what, I'm gonna try to wake up earlier, so I go to bed earlier. I was trying to adjust my biorhythms and my sleep clock. So I decided to do a 30-day early rise challenge. I had to wake up every morning at 6 a.m. and I wasn't allowed to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
No naps, I had to get up. Because I just really, even if I was tired, and I was super tired, I wanted to make sure that I forced my body to realign. And I can now proudly say that I get up every day between 6:30 and 7. I didn't go all the way back to 6, but I was getting up at like 8:30, 9 consistently.
So it really did lead to a long-term change of what had been a routine.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
shaking up the routine, is there a value just in shaking up a routine to see what other way might be better?
I definitely think so. I think sometimes you try things, and even though you shake it up a little, still doesn't work. So it's not always a guaranteed success. Sometimes you shake it up, and then at the end you're like, I'm exhausted and I don't like this.
Right.
And then other times you're like, wow, I just completed, just last night, a 30-day meditation challenge. And prior to this challenge, I had only meditated maybe 3 times in my entire life. But I definitely, moving forward, this has been a great practice, and I'm going to continue this moving forward because I can see the value and the benefits that I've gotten from it.
What would your advice be to somebody who maybe has a challenge in mind but wants some framework, maybe some rules? How do you set up rules for yourself? What would you recommend to somebody else trying this type of activity?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first of all, you have to kind of have that mindset of, if I challenge myself on something, it has to be doable, because it's a compound effect. Every time you complete a challenge, your mind gets a little bit, your discipline gets a little bit stronger. And so you'll go, great, I just finished this 30-day challenge of this thing that was really hard, and I did it. So it has to be reasonable. I did one time, I've only failed on one time. It was a challenge that was just too difficult. It was prior to doing my 30-day early rise challenge. There was this thing where I was supposed to get up at 4 a.m. every day and run for 30 minutes.
Oh, ugh.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. The mixture of getting up at 4 a.m. and running for 30 minutes at 4 a.m., I just couldn't do it. So I think that's really important, is like, make sure it's doable, but it pushes you a little bit. And then it's just like, pick whatever you want. If you feel like you don't want it, I'm also on a almost 1 year challenge of not eating sugar. My family's diabetic. I'm really sensitive to sugar. I just wanted to see how my health would improve. I've been to the doctor twice since then, just to see how my numbers would fare out, and my, to see if, like, I was getting really close to being diabetic. And so I just wanted to see if it would adjust my numbers. And it has, in a very favorable way. So it's just, you get to pick. Sometimes it can be for fun. It can be for, You said before we started, you said maybe do a 30-day bridge walk challenge. I'm like, wow, that would be intense every day.
Every day walk a different bridge.
Yeah.
You'd start having to find a lot more bridges than you knew about before.
Exactly. Portland has quite a few, but I definitely think I'd have to get outside of Portland.
Right. You start going to Beaverton and Vancouver and everything.
Anywhere where there's a little bridge.
And I think one of the things I've noticed, Cathey, is that you on social media are telling people about your challenges. And so you're making yourself accountable, because you're going to have to show something along the way. Post pictures of bridges, conversations you had, something that shows, yes, I'm on track and you can follow me this way.
Yeah.
So that being accountable, that's one way, is tell people about it, and then you have to live up to it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the whole world's holding me accountable when I say, hey, I'm going to start a challenge. And then I always post day 1 of the 30-day meditation challenge, day 2, day 3. And I hashtag them all so that I can go back later, or anybody can go back and click on it, and you'll be able to see all of them. So.
Well, great. That's our time. And
that went by fast.
What a fast time here. And Thank you so much, Cathey, for talking about challenges and how you use them to keep yourself dynamic and positive and ever improving. Thank you for being with us this evening. I hope you've enjoyed watching and learning from Cathey Armillas. If you want more information about her or her work, it is online at catheyarmillas.com. That's CatheyArmillas.com. I'm Erik Bergman, inviting you to tune in again next time for TV Toastmasters.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Harmon. I'm a member of TV Toastmasters. In this club, we have an opportunity to practice speaking before the camera as well as running the equipment room. If you're interested in being interviewed on TV Toastmasters or becoming a member, please go to Toastmasters.org and look for us, or simply search for TV Toastmasters on the web.